Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. Before I get started with this video, I gotta say, everybody knows Microsoft Hates Greg is a joke, right? Everybody's in on the joke. It's been a great running joke for a while now. But this is the first time I made a video where I'm genuinely concerned that after I make this video, that Microsoft's really gonna hate me. Because today we're looking at the quick measure sales from new customers. And this is I'm astonished by how bad this quick measure is. It's just an epic fail at so many different levels. It's hard to even know where to begin with this thing. But so ignore all the numbers on the screen right now. Let's get into this. Data model is very much the same as what we've been doing lately. I don't know why those aren't showing up, but I have my date table here, right? Got my month column. Very similar to the recent videos I've been using. And then I don't know why sometimes you ever have this happen to you, like where the stuff just doesn't show up. I don't know why that. Oh, I know why. Oh, here, let me clear the filters here. There we go. Okay, so the only thing that change I really made to this table, so I was doing some troubleshooting on this thing because it took me a while to unwind what in the world was going on with this quick measure. So I've got two randomly generated numbers for each day, and then I've also added an ID. So it's a RAND between 1 and 10,000. So this is my customer ID that I'm going to be using. So that's what we have here. We got some randomly generated numbers for our values. We got some randomly generated IDs for our customer IDs. We have 2 of those for each date. And away we go. All right, so how you create these quick measures, this quick measure is you come in here, right? And we have this sales from new customers. It's sitting under our filters, sales from new customers. Okay, and we get three, this is important. We get 3 columns that we can fill in, or measures that we can fill in, right? So, the way I constructed these, obviously I use value for my sales amount. I use my ID for my customer ID, and then we get this date field here, right? So if I try to bring this date in, it says only Power BI provided date hierarchies or primary date columns, which means it's marked as a date table, are supported. Now, this is the first problem. I'm going to show you this in a bit, but there's absolutely no reason why this needs to be the case. There's no time intelligence functions that are used. There's no reason to use the automatic date hierarchies. All you need is a date table. Even within their quick measures, except that they, for some reason, I'll show you. But this is the first problem, and this is a calculated table. So even if I have auto time intelligence turned on, maybe you don't know this, maybe you do, but even if you have auto time intelligence turned on, you can't use or a calculated table does not create an auto hierarchy for your date. So that's an exception to that. All right, so anyway, so to get this going, right, I have to come in here and drag down date. Now, I created this in 2 different ways. First method that I used to create this, I marked this as a date table, created the measure, and that is value for new ID. And then the second way I did it, I unmarked this as a date table. I turned on auto time intelligence, and that is value for new ID 2. All right, so that's how I created these quick measures. All right, so let's get into this. So that's the first problem. They're forcing time intelligence on you when there's no reason to do it. Okay, so let's take a look at this thing that gets created. All right, so the first problem. Look at the first line. So for current values, your variable there, right? All right, so we're using a summarize across a value, a table created by values, which I have a problem with. Right? Use distinct, don't use values. But then we're oh, it's like, why do you construct it this way? So I'm using values from a table, and you're summarizing with the ID. Why, if you're using values already, right? Why wouldn't you just use values, table ID? Use the column form. It's also going to return a distinct list of values, right? I mean, why in the world are you? Let's get the values from table and feed that to a summarize, and that to get it, and then pass it the ID column to get it. It makes no sense to me. If you've already used values, so just use the column form of it and use table ID, and you're going to wind up the same table. Mind blown. Just don't get it. So anyway, all right, okay, fine. odd way to get a list of unique IDs, I suppose. I don't know what to make of that. So then we're going to do this calculate table. We're going to summarize. Again, we have that weird construct for how to get a unique list of IDs, but this time, right, we're going to filter all of our dates, where the date is less than the minimum date. So what this is doing, right, if you think about this, if I want to try to find new customers, right, I want to get a list of all of my customers in context, and then I want to compare that to a list of all customers that, have bought things, prior to that date. And that's how, and the ones that are unique, within this context, then, and they're not in the last set, my previous set, okay, then that is going to return back, just the unique customers that are the first timers, right? The first time they bought something. And then we do this keep filters current values, which I'm not even going to try to unwind this mess because I'm going to show you just how bad this thing operates in real life. And then, of course, we're going to do the calculate sum, and there's the accept, right? I'm going to accept the current values, from the existing values, right? So give me back everything that's in current values that's not in existing values, right? So that part makes sense to me, but just, it's just complex, man. The concept of this is super simple, all right? So okay, I'm going to do this a little differently than in past videos. So now, how would I construct this, right? So let's take a look, and this is a little more complex because I had to do a boatload of troubleshooting for this thing. But so it's a little bit more verbose. You could definitely shorten this up. But let's think about the steps, right? So I want to get my current customers. Well, I can just use distinct table ID. That's what I was talking about. Using summarize across values, I don't get that. But sure. So then we're going to get the min date in context, right? And then we're going to create a table where, again, I'm going to filter all of the table for date less than min date. Okay. And then I'm going to get the previous customers from that by doing a distinct across the select columns where I just grab out the ID, right? So now there's my previous customers. I have my current customers. Now I know my new customers. I can do an accept current customers, previous customers, and then just do a simple sum X across that where I filter the table where the ID is in new customers and get the value, right? Super simple, straightforward, no need for calculate, no need for calculate table. No need for keep filters or any of that nonsense, and definitely no summarizing one column across the values. I don't get it. I really don't. Anyway, so now I had a lot of problems with this formula. And again, let's not focus on all the different numbers right now. But what I finally figured out, and that I had to go back and read this quick measure very carefully. Okay. So if I go back here and say sales from new customers, calculate the sales on a date to customers who were making their first purchase. You can also use this quick measure, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, when I first read this, in my assumption being that, well, if they're so concerned about time intelligence and everything else, obviously this quick measure would roll up to like month and year and quarter and all that sort of thing. But no, in the definition, it says calculate the sales on a date. And it's rather important, it turns out. Okay, so if you actually have dates, so you're using date as your, that's what we're basically, we have in our table. We just put the date in there. And if you have, so I created a difference measure, and the difference measure, all it does, it subtracts their version of new sales from new customers from my better sales from new customers. Okay, that's all it does. And as you can see, I have this sorted descending, so and you can see there's zeros, and if I sort this ascending, I also get all zeros. So that means that our numbers, both of those measures, match one another. Now here becomes what got me going crazy initially in creating all these extra things to try to troubleshoot this thing, because I thought, dumb me, I want to sales from new customers. I should be able to see that at a day level. I should be able to see that at a month level, a quarter level, and a year level, right? Because that's the way the measure sort of reads to me initially. When I'm taking a look at this, heck, I'm getting my min date, right? And I'm saying give me everything less than that date. And so, I would think, okay, so if I'm using month, at a granularity of month, should still work. It'll grab January 1st, and then it'll show me all of the all the new customers in January, or all the new customers in February, all the new customers in March. But here's what here's what happened. When I did that, because I didn't initially do this date table down here, I initially was doing it by month. And you can see here, I get like a zero, get zero diff. Well, there's a difference here. 139, 64, and 23, and 239. I'm like, okay, what's wrong with my measure? Like I did something wrong in my measure. And this measure again was a lot simpler, more compact, if you will. And then I started had to blowing it apart because I'm like, obviously I have something wrong in my measure, that is, it's not calculating things correctly. No, that's not the case. The case is that this measure doesn't roll up. This measure does not roll up by month. It returns back wrong values. Okay, unless it's at the date level of granularity, this measure returns wrong values. Okay, and I can prove it. So here you see I have, and this is using their measure. Okay, this is using Microsoft's, measure right here. You can see it right there, and I've got the value in here, so that shows you the value. Well, you can notice already that the value matches the value for new ID at each row, right? And here, I have as this is troubleshooting value for new ID. You can see that these are changing, right? But now look, value from new ID previous. And this, all I'm doing is, right, I'm concatenating up the existing values, ID, put a comma separator, and it's blank. It's blank everywhere, right? All of these rows are blank, which means it's not getting the previous IDs. It does it right at the date level, but it doesn't do it at the month level. Versus the, in my opinion, far easier to construct and read, versus all the summarizing over values, with one column kind of thing. Use one or the other. It returns the right one, because here you can see, here's so I don't have any previous sales in January, which makes sense, right? My date table starts in January, and my sales start in January 1st. So I'm not going to have any previous customers. And then if I look here, okay, there's the previous customers that were in January. Okay, and then there's the previous customers that were in January and February. You can see the list is getting longer. And now here's the previous customers for January, February, March, and the list is getting longer, right? So I mean, this is what you would expect to see. So so and it just this took me quite a while to unwind what was going on, because I just made the assumption that I was wrong, that I had done something. I had finally hit that problem that calculate solves, and my method won't. But no, it turns out that my measure actually works the way you would think it would work. And okay, so now it rolls up, to month or quarter or year. It works at all those levels. Whereas the measure that's supplied in Power BI only works at the date level. And if you roll it up, it's wrong. But the question is, how many people are going to use that measure and use it, try to use it at the month level or a year level, and it's going to be wrong, and they're not going to realize it. It boggles the mind. Okay, so here's my other complaint on this thing, right? So the whole time intelligence, it's forcing you to use time intelligence. Well, even in their measure, there's no reason for time intelligence. All they're using is a date's date, less than, min, date's date. You don't need time intelligence, right? There's no reason for time intelligence right there. If they're using a time intelligence function like dates between or dates before or whatever crazy don't use time intelligence functions, but whatever crazy time intelligence function that they might be using, it's not needed, because there's no reason for it in the formula. Now, here's the interesting part. This was when it was marked as a date table. Now, if I have it doing time intelligence, it creates a slightly different version. First, it gives this whole is filtered time intelligence quick measures, Columbia group, blah, blah, blah. I can't make this stuff up. So what are they doing that requires the auto date hierarchy? They're using, look at that, all dates, date dot date. They're not using month or day or year or any of the other hierarchy. They're using date dot date. You know what date dot date is equivalent to? Date. So it's not needed there either. So why make it? It's just why, oh, why were the quick measures constructed the way they were? And to put unnecessary constraints on them, there's no reason. There's no reason to have all these time intelligence and, you have to be, auto dating or marked as a date table. It's like there's no reason for this one. Yeah, later on we're going to take a look at some quick measures, that actually use time intelligence functions and maybe need that stuff. But this one certainly does not. So, so to recap, I was not anticipating, I was like, oh, this is going to be great, some great content. I can go through each of these quick measures and they're going to use calculate and I can show how to do it using some, var table, X aggregator. It's all going to be great, and all. I was not expecting to come across a quick measure this horrific where it fails on so many levels, that it fails because it's forcing you down the time intelligence when there's no reason to go down that path, right? It fails because it's doing weird constructs like summarize values table and then table ID. Dude, either use values table ID or use summarize table and then ID. I can't comprehend this construction. It's beyond me. Beyond me. I don't understand it. And then the fact that you go through all of that, you must use time intelligence and time intelligence this, and then it doesn't even roll up properly from the day level to the month level to the quarter level to the year level. I don't know what to say. I'm at a loss. So before I say anything that really is going to make Microsoft hate me, I'm going to end this video. So I'll see you all next time.